Before the World Cup began, Carlo Ancelotti spoke about how the Rio Carnival serves as an inspiration, a metaphor for the nation. You see, Brazil in the Carnival, he said, it comes across first of all in the alegria, the boundless energy and desire to be together, and the superb organization, because the Carnival, especially the one in Rio, is a perfectly oiled machine in terms of timing, event planning, and stage design. This is Brazil. One thing very important to me in a successful side are patterns of play, and I see them in this Brazil side. A lot of the goals they score are of the same. There is a greater emphasis on tackling and regaining possession to score goals. Watching Ancelotti's Brazil play is not exactly witnessing a German gegenpressing side. This is a more humble side. Carlo Ancelotti's Brazil are willing to stand off opponents and let them have the ball at times. Scotland, for instance, completed 400 passes at the Hard Rock Stadium. Brazil picked their moments and they picked their opponents' pockets time and time again. Two of the three goals against Haiti at the Lincoln International Field were also the culmination of Brazil's players reading the intentions of the opponent's side and making them pay. While Brazil did have a poor first game against Morocco, it is important to realize that Ancelotti has slightly transformed the team since then. Back then, Brazil was mostly in a 4-4 formation, an attack-heavy side. The problem was that there was just a big disconnect between the front and the back, and that is why they were dominated in the midfield against Morocco. There was just too much ground to cover for Casemiro and Bruno Guimaraes. But those distances weren't just a problem in possession, they were also a problem out of possession as well, because when Morocco were building up, if they got through Brazil's forward press, they would enter the area where they would basically be running at a back line, and Casemiro is not the biggest of space coverers, and Bruno Guimaraes had to do a huge amount of work. Essentially, they were struggling both in and out of possession. So what ended up happening was Matheus Cunha was brought in as a striker to play false nine, who would drop in from time to time. Vinicius on the left hand side, Rafinha on the right hand side, then Casemiro in the middle, and Bruno and Paqueta switch positions. Brazil tried to create a diamond between Cunha, Casemiro, Bruno Guimaraes and Lucas Paqueta to try and overload the midfield a little bit more so that you're getting better connections in the middle and making it easy to connect the back to the front. But Brazil is also doing something a bit more interesting. That is that out of possession, they're much less aggressive in their press, because earlier, since the front line was pressing quite high, the distances were opening out. If you got through that process, you would have a free run at goal. So now Brazil's trying to sit a lot deeper, absorbing pressure and keeping those distances short, being much more compact. This makes it harder for teams to transition against them. Players like Vinicius Jr., Rafinha and Matheus Cunha are really good at attacking space at speed. So if Brazil can sit back a little deeper, their opponents can come onto them and it will open spaces to attack. Brazil are trying to not really make a kind of connection with the opposition in their build-up until around the halfway line. So when they win the ball back, there's going to be a lot of space to run into, and when they win the ball deeper in the field, they've got Rafinha and Vinicius to be able to run at speed at gaps in the opposition's defense, and this is how they hope to score goals. Over here we can see Haiti about to play the ball into the midfield, but Cunha is able to get really close to the player on the ball and win it back. And then you see immediately that that's a trigger for Rafinha and Vinicius to get forward. And all it takes then is Cunha to play the ball to Guimaraes, and then he's got options to both of them in space. So rather than actually worrying too much about building up and getting the ball to those players in possession and having to work it through a block, what they're doing is just waiting a little bit deeper, springing these traps and attacking from there. And then we've got example from the second goal, slightly different here because Cunha is in the front line with Vinicius and Rafinha is on the outside of the diamond, but the same kind of structure is in place. Haiti is in their build-up phase. They're going to play it around to the outside centre back here. He's going to play the ball inside, but we've got Paqueta here, who's able to get across, win the ball back, and then voila, you're in the same situation. You've got two players now with space in front of them to run into, and as a result, they can generate these sorts of attacking moments, which are transitional moments. And I think all of this shows that Brazil are at their best when they're able to create more of these transitional moments. Maybe the problem against Morocco was that they were trying too hard to possess the ball without having the players to do so. And so what Mr. Ancelotti has done is that he's tweaked the system just a bit, and he's got a team in a structure where they can play a little bit more passively in order to be able to get most out of the players on the field. Do you hear that? Are you hearing the music too?